Hi there, greetings and salutations. It is slightly chilly, and my name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz. It is the incredibly creatively and appropriately named Query and Schultz program here on the ISC Sports Network, as the Colts have a defensive coordinator, college football has a national champion,
Big Ten.
the Pacers are overseas,
Yeah.
Indiana is salvaging its season, and Purdue just keeps on clicking.
Yeah, we're going scarf today? It's
Well,
that cold?
I
We're going
left-
scarf?
I left it here.
Yeah. It
and
looks
so
comfy.
It is comfy.
Yeah, it looks comfy. I'm not a scarf guy. Not a scarf guy.
Let's see here.
I have a hat and gloves. I think most humans have hats and gloves. I can't pull off the scarf. I wish I could pull off the scarf. I can't. See, like that looks good. Like you look regal. I can't. Something about it. The problem for me is that anything that sits. You guys know at home, my neck and shoulders are just so muscular. So anything that kind of like sits up here almost makes me look more swole. Like I think I'm in the perfect amount of swole right now. I don't want to get any more swole because then you have like the short man syndrome.
I think it's swollen. Is
swole. SWLLE.
I mean.
Yeah. I don't want to get any more swole because then it will look kind of ridiculous, right? Like this is the perfect amount right now. Like, when people think of like body image, like perfect body image, and I'm not like putting this on anybody else, but I think they think of me,
You're
what
like
they would want.
5'2".
What they want. Exactly. So I have to make sure that I'm not overcompensating for the fact that I am slightly below average height-wise for American
let me
males.
ask you this. Do dogs like you?
Yes, very much so.
You know why?
Why?
Because you look like a fire hydrant.
Yeah, that's...
You know what I mean?
That doesn't even make
like,
any sense.
Are they sniffing when they're around you a lot?
I've never been called a fire hydrant.
Yeah, you're short, stubby.
Yeah. I have been peed on.
Yeah, see?
I have been... Well, if you're a dad... Jake, if you were a father, you would know. But yeah, I have been peed on.
Yeah.
Several times. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's start. Can we start Ohio State? Like, I feel like... let me say this. I don't know why every Indy station felt the need to send their TV people down there. I don't...
Listen,
am I wrong here?
no, you're totally correct.
Okay.
Go ahead, and then I'll add in.
And this is coming from somebody, Jake. I grew up a huge Notre Dame fan. My parents are from South Bend. My sister went to St. Mary's. We have my uncle, three of my cousins went to Notre Dame. Like I grew up in a Notre Dame family. I've lived in Indiana for 20 years. I have never connected Notre Dame to this state. Notre Dame is its own entity.
Correct.
That's how I've always kind of viewed it. It happens to be in Indiana, but South Bend and Indianapolis, just like the region, they have no connection to. Just like in Trumbull, Connecticut, I didn't have any connection to people that grew up in like Old Saybrook. That's the New England part of Connecticut. I was in like the New York suburb part of Connecticut, whereas I think South Bend is almost like the Chicago part of. Northern Indiana or the Michigan part of Indiana compared to Indianapolis.
You get this when you do a local radio show, or in this case, a local podcast TV show. People that tell you and get frustrated because you don't talk enough about this or that, or you talk too much about this or that. And I had somebody that was like, "Yeah, you guys don't do enough on Notre Dame. You should be more invested in the local teams." And I'm like, I understand that sympathy. And you would know better than I, but Notre Dame's what, 3 hours from Indy? 2.5?
Yeah, 2.5 now with the bypass through Kokomo.
And it's a national brand. Notre Dame is not an Indiana team. It's a national team, right? I mean, that's always been their cachet. Yesterday, and we're taping this on Tuesday, so the Monday afternoon of the national title game, there's a Kansas City radio station that will occasionally have me come on their afternoon show. And it's just a couple-minute thing. I think they call it Around the World or something like that. So they said, "Hey, can we get you on?" And I said, "Sure." And I'm assuming that it was either going to be about the Colts or about like IU. And the first question he asked me is like, "So Notre Dame and the NIL, like where do things stand in terms of their?" And I'm like, "Look, this is I don't cover Notre Dame. I mean, this is not our market at all, right?" But I think people have a hard time.
They just assume
outside
that,
of Indiana,
right? Yeah.
Grasping that. Now, having said that, I'm in agreement with you. I local TV-wise, I mean, I worked in local TV for basically, 15, 20 years?
Yeah.
I don't ever remember us traveling with or covering Notre Dame as a local team ever. And then everybody went down.
I mean, you went to the USC game in 2005. I remember that. That was our
okay,
36, right?
You're right.
Okay.
But that was on – it was on
on your
ABC,
station.
correct?
Yeah,
On your station.
I don't know. Like, and I think it's great. And I know like Andrew Chernoff at Wish is actually a Notre Dame fan. I think Don Miranda might have grown up a Notre Dame fan too. So it must have been really cool for them to get to experience that in a professional setting. But I just, I saw all this coverage like, hey, we're live in Atlanta, and I'm like, okay. I would say I know just as many Notre Dame fans in Connecticut because there's so many more Catholics there
Right.
than I know in Indiana. Is that weird?
No, I think that's.
I mean,
Understand? I mean, yeah.
At least in Indianapolis, Catholicism, it's more of a niche. Like all the Catholics in Indy know each other. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's more of a niche thing. Whereas they're everywhere. Back where I grew up in the Northeast, I mean, for the most part, you're either Catholic or Jewish. From where I grew up, that was all of my friends were either in those two kind of collections of people. But Ohio State wins the national championship, and they're aligning that with losing to Michigan and not winning the Big Ten and technically finishing, fourth in the Big Ten standings,
How about
which is
this?
kind of wild, right?
It has been, in my lifetime, so I'm 52 years old. In my lifetime, Ohio State has never won a national title and an outright Big Ten title in the same season.
Yeah, isn't that weird? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really strange because they shared it with Iowa in 2002 because they didn't play each other.
Correct.
Right? Unbalanced schedule, and they were
Correct.
both undefeated in the Big Ten. That Bryant, what was it, Brad Banks? Who was the other dude that
That's
they
right.
had? They had a running back
The
that was
running back.
good.
Hold on.
Russell or something?
No, hold on.
Brad Banks and somebody else.
If you had not just said it, I would have been able to tell you. Brad Banks was a good player, too.
Yeah. Really
Troy-
good player.
What was the name? Troy Smith was the kid at Iowa State, right? Isn't that his name?
Well, yeah, the running back and then the quarterback, Troy Smith, won the Heisman at Ohio State.
Right, but there was a Troy Smith
yeah,
that was
Troy
a running
Davis.
back. Troy Davis.
Troy Davis is who you're thinking of. Yeah.
Iowa State. He was a 2,000-yard back at Iowa State. Man, who was that Iowa back?
I don't know. We'll look it up and we'll end up figuring out. But now their third title this century, back-to-back Big Ten titles as we see this shift in college football. But I think it's important to note, Jake, that all season long, we all thought this because the results indicated this. We all thought there was no superpower, right? We all thought that there was no Death Star in college football. I mean, you looked at what Ohio State did in this playoff and what they put on the field, and it's almost like everything that happened before that Michigan game didn't matter. They were just a different team over the last 2 months. They were a team that was realizing its potential, where they have pros basically up and down the roster. And they tapped into that, and they pretty much boat raced everybody. I think Texas got the closest, right?
Dallas Clark, by the way.
But Ohio State, yeah, that was – he would have been on that
Fred
team. Russell, that's it. Yes,
Fred
Russell. Okay, I wouldn't have come up with Fred, but Russell I think is the name that I was thinking of. Texas got the closest, but I thought Ohio State kind of played a C minus game against Texas, whereas they played more like a B plus A minus game against Notre Dame.
Right.
But look, they have this wealth of weaponry, and it's just tough. Like I'll say this about Notre Dame to defend it. First off, they had a great season, right? A memorable season and all of that, but they are firmly on that second tier in college football, but it's so hard to break into that. We've really only had 5 programs that broke into that tier. And, yes, LSU won it and Michigan won it, but then they immediately went back, right? The only teams that have really consistently broken through in this playoff format, expanded playoff, past the 2 teams, are Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, right?
Right.
And there's no one else that can really kind of lay claim to that. And Notre Dame's kind of in this mix with Texas and Penn State, and I guess you can still put Oregon for sure. Yeah. I guess you can still put Oklahoma in there, even though Oklahoma's kind of fallen off. And it's great to be there. It's better than where they were with Tyrone Willingham and Charlie Weiss and Bob Davie, but it's frustrating because they keep kind of hitting the glass ceiling.
That game and the national title game was over when the following happened. Notre Dame gets the opening kick, right?
Yeah.
They had a 47-minute drive, right?
Yeah.
When they scored, Riley Leonard looked to me exhausted.
Yeah, like he was going to pass out. Yeah.
When he scored that touchdown, he looked relieved and exhausted. And then I think he thought, I'm going to have to do that like 5 more times. No. When Ohio State came down and immediately spread it out, Chip Kelly went to like 5 different receivers on the first 5 passes. They went down the field. When Ohio State right then scored, they broke the will of Notre Dame right there. It was over. It was over.
Yeah, when they just
you
did
knew.
it so easily.
Correct.
So easily. That whole first half. I mean, Will Howard was just on it too. I mean, Will Howard had that. Will Howard's a really good player, but he had the half of his life, and they really sort of, we say Death Star. They like warmed up the laser to blow up Alderaan.
Now,
that's what it was.
After the game, did you stick around and watch the post game?
Yeah, I did.
Did you see the interview with Jack Sawyer?
No.
No one told him to blow his nose.
Oh no, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With matter of fact, I took a screen grab just for you.
I don't know if I want to see this.
Huh?
I don't know if I want to see this.
I think you do. It was all over social media, but
I mean, Notre Dame.
I mean,
oh boy, yeah, Notre Dame. They fought back because they always fight back, right? You never felt like Ohio State was in real danger.
They were never in danger.
The only time where you were almost like, maybe this could be a game was the 3rd and 11 play. And a lot of people were criticizing Al Golden for going zero coverage and just putting Jeremiah Smith one-on-one. You had to. You had to push all your chips on the table. That was the last play. Like, he knew that they had to get a stop there. In order to get a stop, they had to create pressure. They didn't create pressure. Jeremiah Smith down the sideline one-on-one. It is what it is. I mean, I think it's a bet that he had to make, even knowing that they were opening themselves up to a play like that. Right. Like, I don't think that was some, like, I saw people, like, LOLing about it. Like, oh, my God, I can't believe he made that call. He had to make that call. It was win or go home right there. Notre Dame knew that was their only shot to win. They needed a miracle, and it didn't happen.
Ryan Day's very unlikable, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just awkward. Like, did you see him, like, throw his headset into the crowd afterwards? Like, he was all like, yeah, like, I don't know. No one should get death threats. No one should have their family heckled and all of that. And I can't imagine the amount of nonsense that Ryan Day has had to deal with. And this is a bit of redemption for him. But for the folks saying, see that lunatic fringe on Ohio State, weren't they right? Looking back now, aren't those fans right to have been upset? That result against Michigan was unacceptable.
But Derek, and I put that not on Ryan Day, but on Chip Kelly. Truthfully.
Yeah, but it goes, right, he's the head honcho, so
You're
anything that happens coaching-wise also goes on him. I mean, Ohio State, when you take the Ohio State job, your job is not to beat Iowa. It's not to beat Rutgers. It's not to go 8-1 in the Big Ten.
You're right.
Your job is to beat Michigan and to win national championships. That's your job. And so, like, all these people like, well, he's 70-10. What are you talking about? How could you be upset with that? He wasn't beating Michigan, and he wasn't winning national titles until last night. It's the best program in the country, especially with Nick Saban gone. Like, unquestionably, Ohio State is the best college football program in the country. And I'm not just saying that because they just won the championship.
Well, they have the biggest payroll, too, right?
Well, yeah. I mean they have all the advantages in the world. Like, in a post-Saban world, this is King Kong now in the college football world. And we all know Ohio State fans who are, they are what they are, right? But they are right to expect excellence.
But, Derek, Ohio State fans in football, and I have no idea if this is going to be the case with Brian Day or not, what you're talking about, like the lunatic fringe, right? Like the death threats and whatever else. They are going to – Indiana basketball fans need to pay attention to that because I know Indiana basketball fans want a coaching change because Mike Woodson has underperformed. But if they don't, like, look in the mirror a little bit – Indiana basketball fans could potentially prohibit Indiana from getting the coach they want because there are coaches that are going to look at that and go, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with these fans that feel like they have this entitled purchase of the program itself and want to be around it all the time and do fantasy camps and then show up at recruits' houses. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I think the difference is that you are allowed to be – have a lunatic fringe when you're Ohio State and you roll out of bed every year and win double-digit games.
Right.
I mean, Ohio State, we can't factually say they're the best. I think they're the best program in the country. I don't think it's particularly close right now. But without a doubt, they are one of the 3 best in the country.
Right.
Indiana's not one of the 3 best. They're not one of the 5 best. They might not be one of the 10 best programs in college basketball.
No.
So that's
what are
kind
the
of
10 best programs in college basketball right now?
Well, let's put the Blue Bloods in there. UCLA I always kind of put to the side. I don't put them. The 4 Blue Bloods in college basketball are Kansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, and I think you have to put UConn there now with what they've done. I think you have to.
Okay.
We have 25. We have like 30, 40 years almost of success for UConn.
Michigan State.
Yeah. Yeah, they would be in there. Arizona would be in there.
Arizona?
Louisville's a tough one because I still think Louisville's a great program, but they've had, and they're on the up, right? They're coming up.
Florida?
A little bit here. No. Florida's too fly-by-night. Florida's had like 2 eras where they were really good.
Well, I'm talking about just in right now. I don't mean historically, but right now in 2025.
Yeah. I don't know. I still probably wouldn't put Florida there.
Gonzaga?
Man, at this point, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of advantages to being at Gonzaga. You can kind of control the West Coast, right? Indiana's not far from that top 10. I know. People will be like, "What are you talking about? They haven't done anything."
Derek, historically, you're correct. But if you were to survey 100 kids that are playing year-round basketball, AAU basketball, the whole deal in 2025 that are 17 years old, and say, what are the top 20 programs that when you see them walking into the gym, everybody goes, "Whoa, this is big time."
Yeah.
Indiana's not on that list.
Fair. I mean, the advantage is they still have the advantages in this NIL. They have top
right.
10 program amenities. And this is kind of morbid, but I was watching a documentary on crack, and one of they had some B-roll footage of a murder, and somebody, the victim, had an Indiana jersey on, and this is in New York City, 35 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it just shows how relevant Indiana
Correct.
was. I mean, sorry, that's like a horrible analogy to use to show how relevant they are, but that's where Indiana was. Indiana was in blue chips, right? Because they were that nationally prominent of a program.
You were watching a documentary on crack?
I don't want to alarm our viewers and readers. My non-sports interests are very dark.
Well, I mean,
I am fascinated.
You get on me all the time about.
Well, sure. I am fascinated by human tragedy, and I'm also fascinated by things that happened that particularly in American society that shaped where we are today, and some of the warts that we have, not only in this country but on planet Earth.
Derek,
to this day.
It's interesting when I think back to, when you're a kid, you look through rose-colored glasses, right?
Yeah.
And you don't understand really everything going on in the world. And it is interesting that I think that we selectively, like, people think of the 80s as like the glory years of the United States, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, the crack epidemic, the AIDS scare. I mean, there was a lot going on.
There's a lot of bad stuff. Yeah.
Correct.
But if you were a suburban white kid in the 80s, life was probably pretty good. Right? I mean, that's just reality. This show's going in all kinds of. We were at college national championship, then we turned it into IU basketball because Jake Query always turns everything into IU basketball. Remember that email we got?
I think we did.
Why does he always turn it into IU? I don't know. Like, they're a prominent people like talking about IU. But yeah, I just to show Indiana's part, but kind of steering it back to college football. I do think I thought this playoff was a success.
It was.
I think where they erred is that January 20th is just too long.
I would agree with that.
It's too long, man. Like, I had to remind myself.
I would agree
and
with
I was
that.
invested in the game. It's Ohio State, Notre Dame. It's not TCU, Georgia. It was very relevant to me. I had to remind myself that the game was last night.
Let me tell you where I erred. When the college football announcement was, I remember we had Don Fishner on my radio show on a Monday, and the previous, it might have been on a Wednesday, but either way, the day before we had found out that Indiana was playing Notre Dame. And I said, like, okay, Don, coming up on Monday, the Hoosiers, you got a decision to make here. And he said, no. Or Saturday or whatever it was. I think it was Saturday. And he said, no, that's next Saturday. It's not this Saturday, it's next Saturday. I'm like, wait a minute, there's 13 days between when they announced it and when they played.
You got to go the next week.
Correct.
You got to go championship Saturday, so all the league championship games next week.
And one of the things that gets lost in this that's interesting is the 4 teams that got the bye, all 4 lost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think was, looking back, was because the seeding was wrong, right? I mean, the automatic buys were probably a mistake. But you still had the top 2 seeds lose. You said, no one would argue that Oregon and Georgia deserve to be 1-2. Right? And they both lost 2. And some people saying, well, it lessens the regular season because Ohio State lost twice and they lost to Michigan on the last week. And I don't know, man. But you still had a lot of meaningful football in November.
Now that the playoffs are complete, who was the second best team? It's one of 2.
I mean, Notre Dame beat 3 top 10 teams to get there. It's not like, if Notre Dame's path was Boise, SMU, and then a sneak by of Penn State, I might feel differently. But I think I'd vote Notre Dame number 2. Texas
is the one.
The problem with Texas, though, Jake, is that really, if you're talking about their entire season, Texas's best win was in overtime against Arizona State, and that's probably their only really significant win. They missed a lot of the great SEC teams, and they went 0 for 2 against Georgia.
But the fact that they were
very competitive with Ohio State.
Correct.
Yeah, they were very competitive.
If they had not had the worst call ever of first and go for the 1, let's pitch it backwards 8 yards.
But if you watch that game, Ohio State never controlled it like they controlled Notre Dame. I mean, that was a near blowout.
No,
in the
Texas
quarter,
was
right?
hanging on, right?
But I thought Ohio State did a lot of things that they didn't do last night against Notre Dame. Like they did not. They had penalties that hurt drives. They were moving the ball pretty well. But yeah, if you wanted to vote Texas number 2, whatever. Who cares, right? And I'm sure Texas will get some number 2 votes.
Was it a home or away IU jersey the guy was wearing? White or red?
Home. It was red.
What number?
I didn't see. I couldn't see. He was on the, he's on the ground, crumpled. Yeah.
I mean, you could have just said he was on the ground. I don't know that the crumpled part was necessarily relevant in that
and
situation.
My audiobooks reading is all that stuff too. Like I did like a 20-hour book on Chernobyl and the assassination of Malcolm X and Lee Harvey Oswald was on the lam for a while. Did you know that? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was caught in a
sorry, James Earl Ray. I did read a book about Lee Harvey Oswald who went and lived in Russia for a while and then came back.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I'm thinking of James Earl Ray was on the land. I never knew James Earl
Lee
Ray
Harvey
was on the land.
Lee Harvey Oswald has a daughter that's like 10 years older than I am.
Wow, really?
And she worked at like a Texas roadhouse in Dallas, and they had there's a photo of Lee Harvey Oswald when he was getting shot, and someone, it's got a photoshopped guitar in it. It's kind of
where he's like grunting in pain because
and it looks like he's playing the guitar.
No.
And
I have seen that, unfortunately.
I saw an interview with this woman who's like, that's actually my father, and I was a waitress and didn't tell anybody that I was Lee Harvey Oswald's daughter, and I had to pass that photo every day. I mean, she was like 2 months old when he was killed. It's not like she knew him, but still.
That'd be hard.
Yeah, it's weird.
That'd be hard.
The other thing I was going to mention to you, the Colts have a new defensive coordinator, and you haven't mentioned. I mean, this is all anybody wants to talk about.
We do have to talk about.
It's going to change everything, right?
We do have to talk about that as well. Any parting thought, like tying it in, because my Hogan Hero of the Week is related to the conference championship game, so I want to do that. But any final thought? Like, do you think, was this a good format? Like, did you enjoy this, or are there things that you
yes
changed?
and no. I would agree with you on this. I would agree with you that it takes too long. Okay. Secondly, in the first round of the college football playoffs, when people are like, these games aren't even competitive, and I'm like, do you watch the NFL playoffs?
Yeah,
that's why they're seeded that way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the NCAA tournament. Guess what? There's a reason why it's a big deal when a 9 seed beats a 1 seed, right?
No, for sure. Sorry.
What are you doing here? Did you not mute your phone?
Sorry.
We've been doing. What number episode are we on here?
I know. I think it's the. I'm trying to board Ollie. We're going to go to Phoenix in a couple of weeks, and I think it's the pet place.
No, you're going to board him?
My sister is out of town, can't take him. So
you just leave him at home, have somebody come over a couple times a day.
He gets very, very stressed out when we do that.
Well, what do you think he does when
he's
he's
up all night and
how
barks? Well, at least he's with like other dogs and humans, and they take care of him. They take him out for pets and things like that. Like when he's at the house, he just Do
you think he knows you're going to come back?
No, I don't think dogs realize that you're going to come back. That's what's adds to the stress. Yeah. Go ahead. The format's too long.
What are you going to Phoenix for?
We're going to see some family, and we're going to go to a Suns game because James is a Suns fan.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and we've never been. We're crossing Arizona off his
list. He's still into the Suns?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
A little. They're not winning as much as he would like. He's very much a front runner.
So is he a Pacer fan?
No. He likes the Detroit Lions. Switched from the Browns.
I thought it was the Browns.
Switched this year. Took him to the Lions-Colts game. Decided he liked the Lions. He likes Purdue basketball. He likes Notre Dame football because of my dad. He's had a good year. And the Yankees. He's had a good year. It's just all the teams that he roots for have lost in the championship.
Is this Jimmy Cook?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's very. He's seen 3 teams make the championship and all 3 lose.
At any rate, So the playoffs, I thought in the opening round, I got fatigued by people complaining that it wasn't competitive enough. That's why it's set up the way it is. But yes, there was too much gap between games, and I know that. But January 20th, I agree. I think it was J.J. Watt that had sent a post saying the national title game should be on January 1st, and it should be in Pasadena. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty hard to argue that, right?
Yeah, even if it was a week after that, I think that's fine. But once you're bleeding into divisional weekend for the NFL, I've at that point I've moved on from college football mentally, right. And so yeah, I had to remind myself that.
Now the other advantage, think about this, Derek. You talk about the rich getting richer. Think about Ohio State and Notre Dame. I mean, they had an extra month of practice.
Yeah,
that other teams don't have, right?
Yeah, Notre Dame played a lot of young players because of all the injuries, and it's the portal, right? So you don't know who's going to come back. But yeah, I think Notre Dame's program is in a very good place right now. It's just it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to take for them to break through to the top. Maybe they never break through to the top. I don't know, but they're in a good place. But I can understand the frustration with repeatedly hitting your head against the glass ceiling because it's been hard for them to break through. But ask Oregon. Think about how many great teams Oregon has had this century. They have 0 national titles. So.
Who is so Oregon is? I think we mentioned this the other day. Who's the Oregon of college basketball? Is it Gonzaga?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And it's very similar, right? The same kind of vibes out west, and yeah, they operate in a different way than those other programs do. They're just not the same microscope. Time for our Hoagie and Hero of the Week, brought to you by our friends at Hoagies and Hops, 42nd and Boulevard, southwestern edge of Midtown. They are living it up at Hoagies and Hops. They get another home watch party because the Eagles are hosting the NFC Championship game. This is the Always Sunny. I always forget about this one. It's at the very bottom of the menu. I don't know why it's at the bottom because you think Always Sunny, it's an A if it's alphabetical. But I think Hog is first, and Always Sunny is, I think, the last sandwich on there. But it is one of the most delicious and one of the most unique that Christina has on her menu. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong camera. Chopped turkey, Munster, little L, little T, little banana pep, little peppadew pep, and horsey mayo. I could bathe in the horsey mayo. I'm not even a mayo person. And if you gave me a bathtub full of horsey mayo, I would hop in it.
You would bathe in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got the hazy here, by the way.
Does it say bacon?
The Dr. Feelgood hazy from Chili Water. The hazy IPA. Chili Water is, of course, right there adjacent to Hoagies and Hops. Right next to it. It's perfect. You go in, you get a sandwich. Your sandwich, they don't make these an hour ahead of time and just have them on a shelf. No. Your sandwich is being made right after you order it, right? It's that fresh. I go in and get the Zaire, then walk right across, right next door to Chili Water, get a pint, have that, bada boom, sandwich is ready while you're drinking your beer. It's the way to go. The hazy, Dr. Feelgood hazy IPA, hoppy. This is hot. Perfect.
Special to Jake.
Perfect this time of year, by the way.
Near and dear to Jake's heart. Dr. Feelgood. Think about Axl Rose on stage doing Dr. Feelgood?
Derek, Dr. Feelgood's Motley Crue.
Perfect kind of mix-up. Little GNR.
This is smooth, too.
Little Dr. Feelgood hazy IPA. You know who I saw at Hoagies and Hops the other night?
Greg Poley.
No, celebrity.
Darren King.
Well, I mean, they're celebrities on this show, but like a celebrity. Public figures.
Zaire Franklin. Scott Swan.
Female.
Angela Buckman.
Somebody that lives near me. Midtown resident, female. And I think we were the exact same class at IU.
Larry Overton.
Yeah. So I'm in there with James picking up a Sando, picking up a brew, and there's Lara. Shouts across the room. We catch up a little bit. I asked her if she was actually getting some time off. And she said she's still working around the clock. The people that work in sports, man, I know it's luxurious, right? Because you get to interact with these players and these figures, and you get to do a ton of cool stuff. They work about as much as anybody that I know. Like the people that work either for sports teams or sports entities, it's like 50, 60-hour weeks a lot of the time. But she's doing great, and like I said, Hoagies and Hops, sandwich maker to the stars. I mean, Lara Overton eats there. Forget about us. And that kind of, no, don't do that, Christina. I'll get that in post because I don't want Christina to pull our sponsorship and then just give it all to Lara. 3, 2, 1. Sandwich maker to the stars. So just like us being stars, Lara star eats at Hoagies and Hops.
We're not stars.
We are. What stars is? I'm uncomfortable with that term. Public figures. Respected public figures.
No.
Celebrated.
Who celebrates or respects us? No one.
Celebrated public figures. Hero of the week. I mean, it's got to be Ryan Day, right? It's got to be. I thought about Luke Goody for this just because
hero of the week,
he had a redemption game.
I don't like Ohio State, and my hero of the week is the girl that was driving the golf cart.
Oh, that poor girl.
With Ryan Day.
They seem to laugh about it.
Right
so,
into the
like,
wall.
yeah.
He didn't.
Well, yeah.
Ryan Day acted like he just got.
But he's a weirdo.
He is a weirdo.
He's a weird guy. I think you have to give it to him. I can't think, and I know, I'm not saying this to be hyperbolic, because sports, we're always reacting in the moment, right? I can't think of a bigger comeback in 2 months that anyone has ever had, from walking off the field like he did against Michigan to what we saw last night. I can't think of anything in that span in 2 months. Like, I can think of teams that
that everybody knew.
A 6-month regular season. Yeah, but still, Jake, to say everybody knew that Ohio State would be here when they were walking off the field against Michigan, I think would be disingenuous, right? When they were playing Tennessee, I was not shut off to the idea that they had quit on the season and Tennessee was going to go in there and beat them by 2 touchdowns. I was not shut off to that idea. Would that have shocked you?
I said from the get-go.
Okay, well,
it was gonna be Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Grand Oracle. All right.
I said Ohio State by 17 over Notre Dame.
We can't act like this was guaranteed. People knew that Ohio State had this in them. I'm not disputing that. But to act like this was some guarantee that even after Michigan, Ohio State was going to come out here and blow out everybody in the country and win the national title, that wasn't the feeling at all. So good for Day. Good for him finally checking the national title box at the country's best college football program. Good for him. Now he's got to go and do it again and beat Michigan at the same time on the road.
They're loaded for sure.
Yeah, Michigan's another team that I think is on that tier too. I don't think Michigan is the elite tier with those teams that I talked about that have really broken through. They won a title and Notre Dame didn't, and neither did Oregon. But consistently staying there. Like Clemson was there for like 7-8 years. You know, Georgia is still there. Alabama's kind of fallen off, but they've been there for 12 years. Ohio State's been there for all 12 years. It's just hard. It's hard to get up on that tier. HoagiesandHops.com if you're having a Super Bowl party, catering options, any football-related party, Christina and her crew will take care of you and just go in there and have a sandwich with the stars like me and Jake. And
your Dr. Feelgood Hazy IPA while you're doing it.
Feel good. And right into Sweet Child of Mine?
No.
Transition?
Motley Crue there.
Very similar sounding songs. Then probably Hot for Teacher would be next on my playlist, GNR. We're going to get to know the Colts' new defensive coordinator. I don't know why I have trouble saying his name.
I know.
It's weird. There's like
Lou.
a lot of...
Just call him Lou.
Just call him Lou, I guess. And basketball roundup. Pacers are overseas. Vince is excited about that. He's demanding more Pacer coverage. Purdue really turning it on here. And I don't know, maybe IU saved its season?
Maybe.
How many times are we going to say that?
Tough schedule here.
It's Corey and Schultz, presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group, here on the ISC Sports Network.
Hey, which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Bailey & Wood presents Corey and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network alongside the scarf-wearing Jake Query. I am
cold.
scarfless. Derek Schultz, thanks so much for joining us, whether you're on YouTube,
This looks fashionable, doesn't it?
ISC Sports Network, Twitch, X-Twitter. We do it on our Facebook page as well. Or listening on pod. We still have the biggest following that we have is still via the ear, which is kind of sad because we're both super good-looking dudes.
That's okay.
But I'm okay. I want you to consume us whatever way possible, even if you're not consuming us visually. But I think you're missing out by not consuming this and this visually. I think you're missing out. You're also missing out if you are not getting pre-approved for a home mortgage, for especially first-time home buyers, with our friends at Bailey & Wood Financial Group. 855-350-HOME, BAWFG.com, 5-star customer service for Bailey & Wood. Mike Wood and his team will provide that to you with branch locations all throughout the state of Indiana.
Mike's just a good dude.
He and his son Walker just went up to CubsCon. Mike's got a great life. I mean, Mike, if you're a sports guy, You need to follow Mike on Instagram because he's always doing cool stuff. He's going to Miami for Dolphins games. He's going to Cubs Con. I think he went to a Blackhawks game a couple years ago. He's a Cubs, Blackhawks, Dolphins guy. And Dolphins are number one on that list for him. But always doing cool stuff and hanging with his kids and has a great business. Very family, just like Mike, family-oriented atmosphere. Helping out folks in the community, helping out Indiana, and they're deeply passionate about the folks that they serve. But BAWFG.com, the proud presenting sponsor here of Query and Schultz. Let's talk about the new Colts defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo.
I think it's Anarumo, but yes.
Anarumo. Instead of A?
I think it's Anarumo, right?
Anarumo.
Might be Anarumo.
Either
way, had spent time at Purdue, was with both Joe Tiller and Danny Hope back earlier in his career, and has spent the last couple seasons with the Cincinnati Bengals. Bottom line is this. People were excited when Gus Bradley was the D coordinator. People were excited when Matty Eberflus was named the defensive coordinator. The reality is that coaching, especially at the NFL level, Derek, it's the old phrase. I think it's less about the X's and O's and more about the Jimmies and Joes. The system that they ran with Gus Bradley, they were pretty
vanilla.
Yeah, I mean they were not overly aggressive, right? That's different. This is a defense now that's coming in. If you look at the way Cincinnati does it, that's heavy blitz, coming after it, bringing it. Chris Ballard's going to have to get him some players because, sure, Liatu Latu was a guy that I thought, highly of when they took him. Looks like he might not have been the best pass rusher in the draft, right?
And Jarrett Verse is pretty darn good, isn't he?
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is where, just situational. But the linebacking core in particular, this becomes notable with E.J. Speed. Is E.J. Speed going to be back? Zaire Franklin, Zaire Franklin, I think, is a guy that a lot of it defense was kind of funneled towards him. Is he now going to have to show greater range? And he's got decent range, don't get me wrong. But does this mean now defensively that the Colts reinvest again in the draft and bypass on getting the best tight end available or the best corner available? These are all questions that remain to be answered. But what I'm getting at is I do think that you are going to see a little bit of schematic change in the form of a defense that is a little faster flying forward than it is spread out, running a four-down set and being a little more conservative.
And Colts fans will like this from what I read about Lou, opponent-specific game plans, too. Gus Bradley had a system. That was what they're going to run. They're going to run every. It's a lot like Ron Meeks in the old Tampa, too, right? That's what they were going to run. Didn't matter who they were playing. That is what they were going to run. And Gus Bradley, there are some advantages to that. There are also some disadvantages to that, but I know it caused a lot of frustration where the Colts were giving up underneath stuff to teams that they probably should have been a little more aggressive in, like New England. That game specifically in Drake May probably should have been a little bit more aggressive. His Bengals defense has started strong. I mean, that 2021 playoff run was I know Burrow got a lot of credit for it, but that was heavily predicated on the defense limiting Mahomes and the Chiefs, and then they limited that Stafford Rams team, which was really good, and put them in position to win the Super Bowl, which obviously they didn't do, but still they got there and made it a game. This, I think, underlines the point that the Colts are just going to have big shifts everywhere. They're going to have big shifts in their process, in their mentality, in their leadership, in how they do business. And this is a big shift from Gus Bradley. I don't know if it's going to work. I mean, there's a really good chance, Jake, that Lou's one and done here. This entire coaching staff is gone after the year, and the general manager's gone, and most of these players are
what
gone.
Discussions took place, right?
I mean, this was not an attractive opening.
Right.
Because any defensive coordinator that is jumping on this job, you almost had to take somebody that was just fired, because anybody else jumping at this job, Lou's 58 years old. He's not some young up. If I was a young up and comer, I'd go somewhere else and probably be a position coach before I take this job and risk being a one and done guy. But we'll see if it works with the personnel that they have. Maybe with the pass rushers. I mean, with Dio and Kwity Paye and Latu, if you're more aggressive, maybe you can unlock something there. I mean, I don't know. As much as we talk about the linebackers and the back seven, the Colts defensive line was disappointing. Outside of Buckner, was disappointing this year.
Buckner is a really good
He's
player,
a monster.
He
Yeah, he's one of their best players. He's pound for pound, he's their best player. But it was overall, that unit was disappointing this year. And
For
their
sure.
sacks were way off the mark.
I mean, it just feels like they just keep trying to reinvent the wheel on pass rush, right?
Yeah. But you're going to have to do some wheel reinventing here because we've clearly seen what doesn't work for this
Right.
personnel and coaching group. So you're going to have to hard correct and see what does. But the amount of time spent on these coordinators, I'm getting tweets yesterday. Wasn't his Bengals team 26? Yeah, sure. It happens. Coordinators do well. They do poor. There are so many things that are beyond a coordinator's control.
Derek, there's no better job in the world than being like a 5-year or beyond tenured NFL coach.
Yeah.
It's just recycling the same
exactly.
hopper.
Exactly. But this whole thing
Like Vic Fangio's still coaching, right?
judging the coordinators all in success. I mean, you mentioned Jimmy's and Joe's. Like, you think Josh McDaniels is a great coach? He was with the Patriots for like 15 years, and they were knocking out AFC championships and Super Bowls with Tom Brady in that offense. But then you come to find out, once you separate him from all of that, it's not so easy.
Right.
So, you have to, the Bengals drafting has not been as good. They kind of hit a hot streak, and then the last couple of years, it hasn't been as good. And I think the results kind of bear that out to defend Anarumo a little bit. I think this was probably the best the Colts could do. They needed to get somebody that was a veteran guy that had been a DC before and had been around the league before. But I do find the Purdue tie-in to be particularly interesting. It's very random.
It is.
Very random because he was a college guy up until the final, the last 12, 13 years.
Speaking of DC, by the way, are they going to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, what a performance, right? Jaden Daniels and good for Washington. I mean, you talk about a forlorn franchise. They were basically the Knicks of the NFL, where they were just off the radar.
Here's my prediction.
They were a laughing stock.
If Washington goes to the Super Bowl, there are, 10% of population that will insist on posting about it and calling them the Redskins.
Yeah, or hail the Redskins or whatever. I'll say this. I have zero interest in Philadelphia. I don't think Saquon Barkley, I guess, redemption. Like, he's already gotten his redemption. He had 2,000 yards, for God's sake. That storyline does nothing
The
for
NFC
me.
East in general is just like,
Yeah.
I in all honesty, and maybe I'm just old and jaded, I feel like it's a very bleh Final Four. I mean, the Chiefs have been there. I mean, Buffalo's exciting because Josh Allen's exciting.
Eagles are constantly there.
Yeah, I mean,
The 3 of the 4.
And listen, I like Jaden Daniels and what Washington's done, but just the fact that they're playing another NFC East team is like,
they're always on prime time, and you're just like, come on, man. But, not that long ago, the NFC East was down in the gutter with the AFC South. I think you could argue the AFC South was actually a better division for a couple of those years than the NFC East. And now NFC East rises back, and, of course, the AFC South stays in the basement because that's where they've always been. It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. I really think, and I know people have been saying this over and over again, and eventually we're going to be right. This is the year that the Chiefs are going to get got. I really think that. I really think that Buffalo's going to go. I thought it was going to be Baltimore. I thought Baltimore was going to win the Super Bowl.
I did
I really did. If you would ask me a week ago, pick your Super Bowl champion, Baltimore. And, Mark Andrews had one of those games that, there are certain names in sports that come up when you mention them, and you're just like, oh, boy. Like Steve Bartman. I know he wasn't on the field, but
Mitch Williams.
Yeah, it was that level. Jose Mesa, like it was that level of, and he's a great player. He's been a great tight end for a long time. But the fumble, and then I don't care what people say. Well, the throw was behind him, and it was cold outside. Come on, man. Kylan Granson, I would expect to make that catch. Okay, and he's the worst tight end in the league, probably pound for pound. So you got to make that catch. He led him down the field. Lamar did not have a good first half. He had a great second half. Right. And I feel for him because I think we're kind of edging into Peyton Manning territory now with Lamar Jackson, where people are going to detract from him because he doesn't have the team success to go with it. And that's a shame. He's a great player.
He is.
Great player. And it's tough. It's tough to be in that AFC with Allen and Mahomes. And you were lucky that you didn't have Burrow, right, this year. And that's how good that quarterback quartet is.
These books on tape, you just listen to people talking?
Audiobooks. Yeah. My wife Ashley got me into it during COVID.
What are you doing when you're listening to
Wash dishes, mow the lawn. I go for dad walks around Midtown. Yeah. Not when it's this cold outside. But generally speaking, if my wife is off work and not on rotation, because she works overnight shift, because I can't leave my 7-year-old at home by himself, I usually go on a dad walk around Midtown 10 p.m. to 11 p.m.
What is a dad walk?
So I go down to, well, I don't want to give away my exact address. I go through like 49th and Penn, like Patachou and that area, out to Central, and I usually take Central up to IHM, and then I come over to the 56 and Illinois shops.
Yeah, I don't care about
with
that.
Like Food Emporium and all that, and go back
your
home.
Kid with
It's
you?
about an hour-long walk.
Then why is it called a dad walk?
Dad walk, because what old dads do to stay in shape. I don't run. I hate running. I was a smoker for a long time, so I like to go on walks. That's like the cardio that I do. Besides powerlifting, that's the other exercise that I do.
And you have somebody telling you a story in your ear?
AirPods.
That's not
audiobook.
safe.
They're narrated.
That's not safe. I mean, cars, honking.
Midtown's very safe.
No, but
Midtown's, it is dark.
yeah.
And there are a couple of times where like I was crossing, I had right away, and the car kept going and like slammed on his brakes, and then realized, oh wait, there's a guy in a black coat with a black hat on that has his AirPods in.
So not only
Keep this clip, because if I get hit by a car and die, and it's going to be a big deal.
you're
going to memorialize.
You're
me with
invisible
this.
and you can't hear what's going on.
Yeah. Well, can't hear what's going on. Yeah. Audiobook all the way up. Sometimes podcasts. I'll listen to sports podcasts. Joel Erickson and Nate Atkins cover 2. I'll listen to Tony East, Pacers podcast. I'll listen to the Alex Golden and Facci with Setting the Pace. So sometimes I'll do some sports stuff in there, but it's mostly audiobooks.
Alex Golden's dead to me.
What happened? I love Alex. He's a great guy. New father.
Had him on the radio show, and he mentioned on the podcast that after one of the Pacers West Coast games, he had J&B on for the live put, and I said, "Oh, okay, it's cool." And he goes, "Yeah, it's really hard to find anybody that is up that's up late enough." And he's like, "J&B's the only person I know that stays up late."
Oh God, yeah, you're nocturnal.
I'm like, people I don't even know stop me in the grocery store, and they're like, "You're nocturnal, right?" I'm like, "How do you not know that?" So he's dead to me.
Yeah, you get like 2 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah,
Even I know that about you. But we're best friends, so we're like brothers. So that's the
yeah,
difference
okay.
between that relationship.
Sure.
Hey, while we're on the topic of the Pacers in Paris looks pretty cool.
Oui.
Pair of games against Wemby and the Spurs. They split with the Cavs. They beat the Pistons and Sixers 24-19 since we last spoke. They're 1 game out of 4th in the East, 5th in the East. Pacers in a great spot. They're playing great basketball. They just
they're healthy.
They look completely different.
Now that they're healthy, and I think we now know, Nembhard, and then we're going to throw Nesmith into that equation too. Nembhard clearly is a key to their defense, right? And a guy that Derek, I got to give him his due because we've talked about it on this show. I was starting to have my doubts. Jarris Walker's starting to turn the corner.
He's actually contributing.
He's turned into a nice piece for them, right? Is he going to be, a starter and a number 3 guy that you would expect out of a top 10 pick? Maybe not, but he is going to be a good, solid player, I think, for a long time here, and he can kind of do a couple of different things. But he finally looks comfortable, which is good to see.
No, he's been very good, and good for him because he had to, really kind of fight through it because, I remember at the beginning of this year, I was like, is this still it? Like after, entering, 3rd year or whatever. Yeah, it's been better. Pacers are in a good spot. It's a long season. Marathon, not a sprint, right? And we'll see what they do out there in Paris. College basketball-wise, I'm very impressed with the way Purdue's playing.
Yo, of course.
Like, I firmly thought that going into this season, I thought, okay, they can be a contender in the Big Ten. Obviously, they were picked to win the Big Ten. And they could be like a Sweet 16 team. I didn't know that they could defend like this. They've had great individual defenders. I don't know if they've had a team defend this well. The way that they're defending right now. I mean, to hold Oregon, say what you want about I'm not super impressed by Oregon. Oregon to me is like almost like bigger Iowa. But going there and holding them under 60 points is really, really impressive. And Braden Smith's playing really well. And Kaufman-Wren's just kind of fighting through it. And they're getting all of these contributions from, how about Caleb Furst, who we kind of forgot about, right? He gets put in the starting lineup, but he takes off.
I love Caleb Furst, though, because this is a guy that coming out of college was a big recruit. Out of high school, was a big recruit, goes into college, gets, you see Zach Edey right there. I mean, you got a 2-time National Player of the Year, so Caleb Furst kind of takes a back seat to that. And now when his number's called, there are a lot of guys that would have transferred, gone into the portal. Yeah. Purdue has a system, and Purdue just says, you know what, if you're going to come here, you're going to play in this system, and you're going to be part of this program, and know your role. And when your number's called, you do your role, and it works, right? And I don't know how long they can maintain that and keep churning in that direction, but Matt Painter can flat out coach. He's one of the best coaches in college basketball, and they are, again, right where they are. To go out west, to me, the Washington game, Washington was kind of hanging around, and then Purdue,
led at
once they
halftime.
got the lead, Purdue extends it out.
it.
Then to stay out there and go into Oregon and really control that game and not let the Ducks back in it in the last couple of minutes, I thought impressive.
Yeah, and it's Matt Painter, right? I mean,
Right.
they're struggling early in the year, so what does he do? He puts Heidi and Colvin in the starting lineup, and then they go out to San Diego and win a tournament, and then that kind of stops working. They go through, A&M and Auburn, and they're struggling, and he's like, all right, let's go back to C.J. Cox, and let's throw Caleb First in the starting lineup because he's been playing well for us, and then they take off again. I mean, he's just he's I think at this point unquestionably one of the 5 or 6 best coaches in America with what he does and the program and everything else. I mean, they've been terrific. I don't know if Indiana saved their season or not. Winning is better than losing. They almost blew it against Ohio State. I mean, they were
Ohio
up
State's
like
very,
9 or 10 points.
Very average at best, right?
Yeah, but I think they're better than what their record says they are, Ohio State. So to still go there and win, I think is a good win. And Luke Goody had a great game. Umar Ballo, when he's invested in trying, is a really great player.
Well, I mean, he's huge, right?
When he's invested in trying.
Correct.
They really have 2 more must-wins this week, at Northwestern and Maryland at home. Schedule gets considerably tougher after that. But they really have to – you got to beat Maryland at home, and you got to win at Northwestern. And then we can have a conversation about Indiana really turning around. At that point, they'd be 7-3 in the league. Then going to Purdue. Excuse me.
Schedule's tough, though, man.
Schedule gets real tough here for them.
And I think Northwestern's tricky.
Yeah, I think any Big Ten road game, even Minnesota. I mean, we saw Minnesota beat Michigan, right? Yeah, Michigan, not Michigan State. And then Butler got a win over Seton Hall. Took James. It was nice to see him win. Seton Hall stinks.
How was the crowd?
Light.
Yeah.
Light.
I wondered.
But that's where the program is right now. I would say it was 60% full.
It's just expensive, man.
Yeah, it's tough to get in and out if you don't live. I mean, I live walking distance to Hinkle. I'm not walking when it's 4 degrees outside. But it's very, very it's very easy
that way?
for me to get over there. If I was a Butler fan living in Fishers, a 7:00 weeknight start would be a tough one for me at Hinkle. That'd be a tough one. But it's an unbelievable venue, even when it's 60% full.
It's awesome.
I just love it. I love the ambiance of Hinkle.
It's great.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of new age, pumped in music and stuff like that. I'm very old school, and it's still very much an old school atmosphere. I mean, you go to an IU game now, and you barely hear the band. It's all,
right,
music and lights, and I get it. I get it. That's Notre Dame Stadium was the same thing. I went to the playoff game, and I was like, what happened to Notre Dame Stadium? I don't think I heard the band once. I like the band. I don't like boots, boots, boots,
right.
But I understand that other people like Vince like that, the younger generation.
I don't think Vince likes that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No. Vince is Vince, when he's not producing broadcasts down on the South Side, clubbing.
Speaking of which, I went
with his cat.
You know what I did? Hey, I have a cat. I got no problem with that. You know what I did last weekend by myself?
What's that?
I went to the 8-Second Saloon and saw Henry Lee Summers.
Oh my God! I can't remember the last time. It's probably been 15 years since I've been to 8-Second Saloon. Pacers had an incident there once. Was it Tinsley? It was always Pacers had an incident outside of 8-Second Saloon.
Really?
Steven Jackson firing the gun in the air. Was that 8? No, that was Club Brio. Yeah. There was an incident at 8-Second Saloon in that era of Pacers incidents.
Okay, that may be right.
I can't specifically remember what it was, but there was one.
That's like I walked in and I'm like, it's like a roadhouse.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's different. Yeah.
Used to be a bowling alley. Henry Lee Summers sounded great.
Good for him. Yeah. He's very Indiana.
Almost 70 years old, by the way.
Do you want to do IU Indy Jags report here? Or you want to wait until after the break, or what do you want to do?
Do it after the break because I want to get.
All right, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it after the break because we got an exciting giveaway. IU Indy.
The lighting in here, is my face getting bad again?
No, you're good. You're good.
Sure?
It's just some winter insulation like that.
So it is fat.
No, it's good to have that a little bit more to produce more fat in the winter months.
But so the
problem for me is that I just keep producing muscle. So I don't know. It's a cross that I bear. We come back, IU Indy Jags report and some quick hits. It's Corey and Schultz presented by Bailey & Wood Financial.
You're going to get a quick hit, all right.
ISC Sports Network. Welcome back. Bailey & Wood Financial Group presents Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Excited about this Saturday.
I am.
Throwback game for the Jags of the Jungle.
I love it.
You going to reveal it?
I will in a second.
We're going to wait. Are we going to do the report first?
Yes.
All right. We got a ticket giveaway, so stay tuned for
The
that.
Jags report for IU Indy, by the way, iuindyjags.com/tickets, which we will put up on the screen. You'll be able to see it. I'll also say it several times. We have plenty of sports to talk about with IU Indy. And again, I want to go back to talking about IU Indy for just a second. As somebody who took classes there on different occasions throughout my long college career, I can tell you, I loved the education that I got at IU Indy because I'm taking Indiana University classes, but in Indianapolis, and I just thought the atmosphere when I remember being there and thinking that it was much more just people taking it seriously and really dedicated towards finishing a degree or being on the right path towards a degree. I loved the education that I got at IU Indy. But on top of that, great facilities and student athletes that are playing Division I athletics right here in central Indiana, and doing so representing oftentimes the high school from the area that they're from. I mean, obviously you get kids from all over the world that are playing at IU Indy, but they are now representing Indianapolis, Indiana University, Indianapolis. So with that, let's begin with women's basketball. Women's basketball in the Jags report. They beat Wright State by 12 on Wednesday in the Jungle. Then went and lost at Cleveland State, but Cleveland State's really good, so no shame there. They travel to Purdue Fort Wayne coming up this week, and then Saturday at 2 o'clock, that's when they're going to be at Purdue Fort Wayne. And then they are home on the 29th of January 29th, for little winter homecoming for the IU Indy Lady Jags. All right, now let's move along to women's tennis. Women's tennis, first match of the year. Derek, are you a tennis fan?
Very much so.
High-level tennis is awesome.
High-level tennis is fantastic.
It is.
Yeah.
You can see it, IU Indy in Western Illinois, Saturday, 5 o'clock at West Indy Racket Club. So things getting underway in the home side of things for the women's tennis program at IU Indy, West Indy Racket Club. That is Saturday, 5 o'clock, taking on Western Illinois. Swimming, men's and women's. Derek, when you think swimming, IU Indy, you think natatorium, right?
Nat.
World-class facility.
Nat.
World-class facility. Here are the names to know for the swimming program, both men's and women's. This is very cool because they swept Washington University last week, did men's and women's swimming. But Emily Zietlow, Nathan Raridan, Sebastian Otero, and Elena Hyde, swimming and diving swimmers and divers of the week within the Horizon League, all of them. So congratulations to all of them. Now, in track and field, another great facility, Derek. I mean, we're talking about a facility where Carl Lewis has run, the Michael Carroll Stadium. Of course, obviously, this time of year, indoors. Luke Chappelle, Joey Ashman, Riley Nixon. They are second, third, and fifth now, respectively, all-time in IU Indy's athletic history in the mile. How about these times, Derek? What would you run a mile in?
Ugh. If I got it under 10 minutes, I'd be super geeked.
Luke did it in 4 minutes, 10.09.
Oh, my God.
Joey did it in 4:11.18, and Riley in 4:14.79. That, again, second, third,
Garrison
fifth
Carr
fastest
does
in history.
that, like 4.5-minute mile. It's insane.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Mudape Awasanye is second right now in the league in the high jump, 33rd in the nation. Sorry, long jump. 33rd in the nation in long jump, second in the Horizon League in track and field for the women's side for IU Indy. Now to men's basketball, and we're going to be there, Derek. Give me the information again.
2 o'clock, Saturday, Jungle, throwbacks game. They're wearing the Metros jerseys. Going to be awesome. I was worried. I emailed Lauren, who's awesome, who works in the admin there at IUI, and I almost wanted to ask permission to go because I don't want people to make it. I don't want there to be like a crush of people when they're there pregame to be like, oh my God, Corey and Schultz are here. I think they've got security and everything like that handled for the game.
Look, they're coming off a tough week, right? They had a 2-game set, losses to Oakland and Cleveland
Two
State.
really good teams, though.
Correct.
You lost to the league champ last year and the league leader this year.
They're in Green Bay this week to take on Doug Gottlieb and his group on Wednesday up in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
but then the big thing that Derek's talking about, you see this T-shirt right here? Saturday, 2 o'clock versus Purdue Fort Wayne.
That's
first
gorgeous.
200 fans are going to get Metros posters, right?
Sweet.
Metros posters, and they will have these shirts available for you from home field.
Can't wait.
Metros shirts. And we're going to have tickets to give away, right?
We have tickets to give away to you right now. So we got a pair of tickets. Saturday's game, 2 o'clock, the Jungle.
I love it.
On the IUI campus.
These shirts are awesome, by the way. Metros, for those that are unfamiliar, Metros is what they were known as before they were the Jaguars.
This is Bob Level era. This is what you have to do. Leave us a comment. however you are consuming Query and Schultz, leave us a comment. So that could be on the Vimeo live stream, iscsportsnetwork.com. You can leave a comment there. YouTube. I think Twitch has a comment feature. We have like 4 people that listen to us on Twitch, and I think one of them is Caleb. So that doesn't really count. Or you can tweet us at jquery, at Schultz975. Leave us a comment. Hey, I want in on the Metros game ticket giveaway.
At halftime,
and we
they
will
should
put
come
your
out.
drawing name in the drawing.
At halftime, they should bring out Matape, Awasanye, and just have her do long jumps.
That'd be cool.
33rd in the country.
Well, I don't want to get like injured though. I'll give you a full day. So this is airing right now live Tuesday night, right? We're not going to do the drawing until Thursday. So I know some people watch the show after the fact. So if you're watching the show Wednesday, right now you can still be part of the giveaway. I have to do the cutoff on Thursday because the game's Saturday.
Okay.
But we'll do the drawing on Thursday. So just leave us a comment. Tweet us. Email us, Derek@QueryandSchultz.com. If you're not, if you're listening right now, I guess, and you don't really have a stream medium that you're listening on or watching on.
Anybody's going to ask, but at the game you will not do autographs, right?
No, I do autographs. I don't do personalized greetings. It just takes too long. Like you have to remember the name. Oh, to John. Oh, you put an H in John, and then you have to cross it out, and it's Jon. Like stay warm! ! God bless Derek Schultz. Like I don't want to do all that. Just give me what you. It's much easier. I can get many more autographs by just signing my name. And
I know this will shock all of you, but Derek prefers shorthand.
Yeah, no personalized greetings. That's why I'm happy to take an autograph. I'm happy to take a picture.
Nobody wants your picture.
All of those things are fine. I have to protect. It's a lot like NIL for college sports. Name, image, and likeness.
Nobody wants your picture.
I monetize this, and I want to make sure that if I'm choosing to give this away for free,
I saw Scott Swan.
I'm doing it the right way.
Scott Swan. I mean, legendary.
I love Scott Swan.
He's the best, right?
Love him.
Absolutely, tremendous guy.
Absolute pro. Wonderful human being.
He is. And when I saw Scott Swan, the first thing he said to me, he said, "Nobody really asked for Derek's autograph, right?"
No, that's not something that Scott Swan would say.
That's exactly.
That's not enough. No.
He did.
I've autographed something for Scott.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It was for somebody else that he was giving it to, but yeah. But I couldn't do the personalized greeting. I couldn't say, Frank or whatever, Hazel.
Hazel.
Anybody that's in
Hazel. There. Yeah. I had a 71-year-old housemaid from 1958 that wanted my autograph.
We come back on the show, quick hits. Man, we're running over. We've been doing long shows here lately.
Just keep yapping.
Very quick hits, and then Chateau Kitchen's Buy It or Bold Leap when we return. It's Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
To tonight.
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Final time. Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Sorry, sometimes we only have 30-second commercial breaks, but sometimes Jake and I have, we're best friends. We're practically brothers. And we'll have conversations in between the break about, like, family or drama or personal issues, and that was one right there.
What's going on? I wasn't listening.
No, I don't want to share with the larger audience, but yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Be the first I heard of it.
Very quick hits. We mentioned the IUI natatorium. Carmel's opened up their $55 million one.
I was happy they did this because what they need to do at Carmel is make sure that they are staying ahead of the competition in swimming, right?
Yeah, they've really fallen off here.
Yeah.
38 straight girls swimming titles, 10 straight boys swimming titles. The thing looks like a palace. Construction began in June of 2022. 30-month building process. They have 6 to 8 months renovations on the old natatorium. They got space for 1,400 spectators. They got a stretch 50-meter pool, a diving well, a warm-up pool. I mean, this is like almost like an Olympic-level facility that they have there. And look, I know that we roll our eyes at it. I know we scoff at it, and like, Carmel being Carmel, they do a great job. It's an amazing high school, an amazing campus.
You're right.
It's a fantastic community. It's not for my wife and I, but I can totally understand the appeal of going out and raising your kids in Carmel. I'm sure it's a wonderful. All the people I know from Carmel, it's a wonderful place to grow up and to go to school and everything. So as much as we kind of talk about it like it's Eagleton from Parks and Rec, it's a great community and they know what they're doing, and this place is just insane. It's insane when you go on that campus, and that's what it is. It's a campus. It's nicer than a lot of the small colleges.
Yeah, that's right.
That I visited in New England. I mean, that's how nice it is. So congratulations to Jim Inskeep and the folks at Carmel. And obviously they're a great partner of ISC Sports Network too, who puts us on the air. Jimmy Butler back on the court for the Heat, which is kind of awkward. He's playing still. He's got to play.
I mean, he's a great player. But
he says
this kind of happens everywhere, right?
They are where we are. Problem for him is that he's 35. It's a lot tougher to make demands when you're 35.
Right.
Like Jimmy Butler's still a bulldog, and I bet Jimmy Butler could play till he's 45 if he really wanted to. But am I overextending myself for 35-year-old Jimmy Butler? Not at this point.
No, I'd agree
Not
with
with the associated potential headaches
Right,
of
I'd
having
agree
Jimmy
with that.
Butler. And he can certainly be a headache. Ready for Bite or Bowl Bleep?
Yep.
Let's do it. Brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchens. ChateauKitchens.com, at Chateau Kitchens, Instagram and Facebook. We had our friends Allie and Rob over the other night. Who? And Allie's, like, her house is beautiful. She lives on 38th and College, just south of there. There's that, like, kind of cul-de-sac that's around there. The first right that's out there. And they're up on a hill, and it's a super cool, like, 100-year-old house. It's got an elevator in it, and it's, like, designed out the wazoo. Like, I'm so jealous of it. It's an amazing place. And they came over to our basement that Chateau Kitchens did, and Allie said, wow, this is like the nicest basement that I've seen anybody do. And that compliment meant, coming from her really meant something because she's got an eye for it. But at Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook for before and after pictures of their latest projects. Here's what we do. I give a statement. Jake and I go back and forth whether we buy it or it's Bowl Bleep. Statement number 1, it doesn't matter who the Colts hire on their coaching staff because everybody's going to be gone in 2026. Buy it or Bowl Bleep.
I'll buy it. What the hell?
Morbid.
Let's go.
That's morbid.
No, Shane Steichen ain't leaving, but the rest of them, I'll agree.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to gas everybody, you're going to gas
Goodbye.
Steichen too. What if they keep the special teams coach? Sometimes Bradley stayed on. They fired Reich.
Yeah.
Bradley stayed on. I'm going to say Bowl Bleep. I'm going to say Bowl Bleep on that.
Yeah, they'll probably run it all back, right?
Ohio State is on the verge of the next dynasty, like Alabama.
It's hard to argue that. I would say that they are certainly. I mean, their recruiting is unbelievable. Their NIL is unbelievable.
And now that the Southern schools don't have the blockade anymore,
Correct.
I mean, the door's wide open for Ohio State to go on a big. As much as we say the playing field is leveled, Notre Dame's got a really good roster, and the playing field was not leveled. Even fully healthy, Notre Dame would have had trouble last night against Ohio State and their weaponry. So yeah, I think. I mean, they're the best program in college football. So do I? And it's a sport that has dynasties. That's
Right.
what it's always been. You never have a run where it's like 9 different champions in 10 years. That doesn't generally happen. I didn't have a last one. I was trying to think of something like weather-related. You had an interesting one. Would you rather have 0 degrees in sun or 35 degrees in sleet?
Oh, man. I mean, it's really cold, man.
It's awful. I'd still rather have the sun because at least it's coming in through the windows while I'm inside.
The sleet is a bit of a changer, but what about this? 0 in sun or 35 and cloudy?
Yeah.
I mean, the dry, I get it, right?
I think 15 degrees and 35 degrees are about the same to me. There's something about when it gets down into the 0 single
I will
digits
say this,
that
though.
It feels different.
It's the wind, right? I know I'm saying that, but you kind of get used to it. As odd as that sounds. Like the first step outside each time you go out, you're like, oh my gosh. But then you kind of figure it out.
I think you get used to the teens. I don't think you get used to 5 degrees, man.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Like it's cold in your lungs when you're breathing
rough.
it in. I don't know. Maybe it's because of all the menthol cigarette damage from over the years, but like, feels like,
it's rough.
Yeah,
it's rough.
It's not fun. Thanks.
Okay,
for
how about this?
Oh, you got another one? Okay. I don't know how long we have still in the show. Oh, we have only 30 seconds, so hurry.
A rookie quarterback starts the Super Bowl.
Bowl Bleep.
Okay.
Yeah, Bowl Bleep. Thanks to our friends at Chateau Kitchens. I think it'll be the Eagles.
Eagles and Bills?
Yeah. Thanks to Hoagies and Hops, Chili Water Brewing Tap Room. Also our friends at Bailey & Wood Financial Group and IU Indy Athletics. For Vince, for Rake, for Jordan,
awesome.
for Jake, stay warm out there. We'll see you at the Jungle on Saturday. Corey and Schultz.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves